Hey everyone, welcome back to Tan's Top 10 channel. So the last video I put out was me talking about my top 10 movies that I like more than most people. And now I'm going to be doing the companion to that one, which is going to be the top 10 movies that I dislike more than most people. I'm going to be breaking a lot of hearts in this video because there are some movies in here that a lot of people love, some all-timers for a lot of people. None of these movies are bad. I think there's actually a lot of good stuff in most of these movies. They just don't resonate with me the same way they do with a lot of people. So, just to be forewarned, I apologize if I'm upsetting some people in this list, but hey, it's my list. I'm sure there's a lot of movies out there that you hate that I absolutely love. And some of those might have been the video that I just put out before this one. So please go check out that one if you have not seen it yet. As with all my top 10 videos, I do have a couple honorable mentions. My first one up, oh boy, let the hurt begin. Raging Bull. Now, I will not take anything away from this movie as far as Robert De Niro's performance, Martin Scorsese's direction, and I always thought that Joe Pesci was so underrated in this movie. His performance is one of my favorites. I love him in this movie. I don't think he's on the same level as De Niro, just because De Niro gives like one of the best performances of all time in this movie. But I always thought he was super underrated. But this is not a movie I ever feel like rewatching. I've seen it once. I did enjoy it. I don't know if I'd say I enjoyed it. I liked it. I was invested. I was blown away by a lot of the filmmaking choices. But De Niro's character is such a piece of shit that I'm just like, I don't want to spend over 2 hours with this character ever again. Like, Criterion put out a 4K not too long ago of this movie. I don't want to pick it up because I just never feel the urge to go back to this movie. Like I said, fantastic film. If you've never seen it, please check it out. It's definitely worth watching. It's just not one that I tend to revisit, and therefore I don't like it as much as most people. And my other honorable mention is Evil Dead 2. I know a lot of you are screaming in this video right now. I don't know. I've seen this movie a couple times, and it's just not been one that I really enjoy. I feel like it takes too much of what the original The Evil Dead did, and is doing it again, but more in a slapstick humor kind of way, which I get, but it's just like not one that I find to be too funny. I actually prefer Army of Darkness to this. I actually might prefer the remake to this as well. I don't know. Like, there's just something about this movie. Like, I wish I could love it as much as everyone else. I just don't fall in love with it that much. I appreciate Bruce Campbell, what a genius. His performance in this is top notch. It's so goddamn funny. He's awesome. Without Bruce Campbell and Sam Raimi, this movie would just be dog shit. Sam Raimi as well, all like the minimum budget that he was allowed, I think he did a great job with. But it's just not one that I don't know, like just something about it just doesn't work for me. Like I said, I like Army of Darkness and the remake a little bit more than this one, which is weird because that's usually everyone's favorite. Kicking off the list at number 10, let's keep the heartbreak going with Spider-Man No Way Home. Now, on first watch, I will say that I was with everyone in this movie. I remember seeing this in theaters. Like I've said in other videos, I fucking had salmonella poisoning when I saw this in theaters. And I still loved it. The multiple Spider-Man, I was blown away by all the cameos and stuff, all the villains. I loved this movie just as much as everyone else. Rewatching it at home, I watched it with my wife. There is a lot of stuff in this movie that I just don't really. The movie definitely gets better as it goes along. The first half, 1/3 of this movie, it's very hard to get through. I don't give a shit about Peter and his friends not getting into college and all that shit. I think Doctor Strange, I don't really like Doctor Strange as a character. I think the humor in this movie is way off, especially with the character of Flash. Like, anytime Flash is on screen, I'm like, this movie sucks. I hate that character. I hate Flash in this movie. It's terrible. Honestly, this is a movie that is awesome at the first time viewing, but upon further rewatches, it kind of loses its luster for me. I do think that the death of spoilers, 3, 2, 1. All right. I think that the death of Aunt May was pretty shocking and very emotional. I thought that was really well handled. You know, incorporating the other two Spider-Men, Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire. Awesome. Loved it. Final battle, great. Final twist or whatever you want to call it with everyone forgetting Peter Parker, Spider-Man. Excellent. I love where the movie leaves off. I just feel like the beginning part of the movie, like the beginning half pretty much, I'm just like, ugh. So, No Way Home. It's at number 10 because I still really like this movie. There's like half a good movie in here. I just think that a lot of the humor just kills this movie for me. So, number 10, No Way Home. I'm sorry if I broke your heart. Coming in at number 9 is going to be Rogue One. Now, I did have Gareth Edwards' other franchise film on my other list, Godzilla. That was on my other list. Yeah, I don't think Rogue One is as great as everyone says it is. I kind of have the same issues with this movie that I do with No Way Home, where in the first half of the movie, I'm not invested in anything. Like, I'm just not entertained. And then the second half of the movie, I'm like, fuck yeah, like this is what I want in this movie. You know, like the final battle and everything in Rogue One is fantastic. Some of the best Star Wars anything you'll ever see. It's also a great looking movie. But these characters, I just don't give a shit about. Like the whole, like Forrest Whitaker, what the fuck was he doing in this movie? He looks so weird. And then like when Riz Ahmed is getting like tortured for information, just like what? So I don't know. Like I want to like this movie more than I do. I even remember just seeing it in theaters and even walking out, I'm like, the first half was not good. The second half was excellent. So it kind of just balances it out. I definitely do need to rewatch it though. Maybe on rewatch it'll either move off this list or maybe even move higher on this list. I don't know. It's been a while since I've seen it. But as of right now, you know, we got the Andor show coming out pretty soon. I'm just not really excited for that. So, Rogue One. Coming in at number 8 is going to be Gravity. Now, I did not see this in theaters. If I saw this in theaters, I'm sure this would not even be on this list. I watched this at home, and I appreciate like the spectacle of this movie. And for the first while of this like bit of this movie, I'm like super engaged in it. You know, it's super intense. You're with Sandra Bullock. She gives a great performance in this movie. Same with George Clooney in the little bit that he's in it. And you actually feel like you're in space, but after a while in this movie, I'm just like, oh my God, just fucking, like, this movie's an hour and a half long, and I just kind of felt like it dragged on a little too long. I feel like this is just one you have to see in theaters. At home viewing, it's just not one that I'm going to rewatch. I've seen it once, not really going to rewatch it ever again. Coming in at number 7 is Juice. This one I watched not too long ago. It was during when I was watching like New Jack City, Boys in the Hood, Menace to Society. I was watching like a lot of these like hood movies, whatever. I don't know how you want to qualify this genre, but I was really getting into them. I loved all 3 of those previous ones, and I was really looking forward to Juice because I heard a lot of people say like this one's super underrated and excellent. And for the most part, I was really entertained by this movie. The one thing that bothered me though was how Tupac's character just like instantly switches. Like it didn't really feel like his turn to like from being good to being evil was like it was kind of just happened suddenly. Like he's got his 3 best friends, and in one scene, you know, he's hanging out with them, and then the next scene, he fucking shoots one in the chest, and I'm just like, it kind of just felt too quick for me. I don't know, like maybe I just wasn't as engaged into this one as I was in those other 3 movies. Maybe that's my own fault for setting expectations. It's still a pretty damn good movie. I would definitely recommend checking it out. Tupac is a fantastic performance, same with Omar Epps. And it's directed great. There's just a couple of choices I was just like, I don't know if I like that choice. Maybe I have to give it a rewatch. I'm sure I will have to sometime soon. But as of right now, Juice was a little disappointed for me. Coming in at number 6 is another movie that I was super pumped to watch. Blood Simple. This one, it breaks my heart to have this movie on this list because I was so excited to check this out. This is the Coen brothers' directorial debut. I've heard excellent things about this movie. You got Francis McDormand. You got an amazing performance from M. Emmett Walsh. I will take nothing away from him. He is excellent in this movie. The best part, hands down. The problem with this movie that I have is just like the story and the characters. I'm just like, where is this going? Like, there's so many moments where it's just like drawn out and like, I hate to say it, boring. Like, I'm just like, what the fuck? Like, these are the Coen brothers. They make some of the most entertaining, engaging movies of all time. And I'm just not engaged in this. Frances McDormand, like, I know this is early on in her career, might have been one of her first performances. She gives an okay performance, but I just don't give a shit about the main characters. You know, like, the story could have been interesting, but they just kind of draw it out and don't really do anything interesting except for the M. Emmett Walsh character. That I'm just like, I don't want to watch this again. I was so excited for this movie. I love the Coen brothers. They're some of my favorite directors. Make some of my favorite movies. And I was so excited to watch this, and it just didn't connect with me. I know it's not one that I feel like I'm going to rewatch either. So that's breaks my heart. Coming in at number 6 is Lady Bird. Now, when this came out back in 2017, I was super excited to check this out because it was getting great reviews. It was getting a lot of Oscar nominations: Best Picture, Best Actress, sorry, Best Director, Screenplay, and I was like, oh shit, like this is going to be a great movie. I picked it up, and I actually didn't watch it like for a couple of years. My wife and I ended up watching it maybe a couple of years ago, and I was really hoping this would be better because I'm like, high school dramedy, watching it with my wife. I think she would really like it. And both of us just kind of, by the end of it, were like, like, I feel like it wasn't anything like I haven't seen before. Like, maybe like they swapped the genders around, but I don't know. Like, I appreciate the mother-daughter relationship in this movie. That was pretty heartfelt. There are some funny moments, and some sweet moments as well. But just for how much praise this movie was getting, like people are saying like best of the decade. I'm just like, did we watch the same movie? Because I'm like, it was okay. Like, I'd give it one watch, but don't know if I could like maybe recommend watching it over and over again. Maybe it's a generational thing. Maybe it's a gender thing. It just did not connect with me. I'm sorry. There, like I said, there were some things that I did like, but I did watch it with my wife, and even she was like, it's fine. Coming in at number 4 is Us. I was so hyped for this movie, seeing it in theaters. I really enjoyed Get Out. I didn't love it on the same level as everyone else did, but I did really enjoy it. And Us, I was like so intrigued by the trailers. You know, a lot of people are saying it's even more of a horror movie than Get Out. And so I was just in. You know, you got Lupita Nyong'o. She's a fantastic actress. And I remember seeing the movie, and I was entertained by it. And then like after like stewing on it for a while, I'm just like, there's just so many things in this movie that just don't really make sense. And I felt like Jordan Peele was just trying to get his message across, but he's also kind of throwing logic and stuff out of the fucking window of the movie. I'm like, by the end of the movie, it kind of just all unravels. You're trying to get your message across. I get that, but your movie also has to make sense. And I feel by the end of it, it just doesn't. So that I feel like I've always had a problem with that with the movie, and the more it explains itself, the less it makes sense. I think there's a lot of twists and turns to this movie that would have been so much better if he wouldn't have explained them. It would have been more subtlety, and the viewer could have been like interpreted it in their own way, which I think would have been better. And instead, he just explains everything, which kind of sucks. So it's still a pretty decent watch. I've only seen it one time in theaters. I did pick up the 4K for pretty cheap. That's why I have it. I do want to rewatch it sometime, and probably before I see Nope, which I haven't seen yet, his new movie. In at number 3 is going to be Frozen 1 and 2. I will say I do like the first one way more than the second one. The first one, though, I like for it being one of the most popular Disney movies of all time, one of the highest grossing animated movies ever. Like all the songs and everything. I'm actually not a fan of the songs. Like Let It Go, I'm not a fan of that song. I've never really liked it. I think Olaf as a character is super obnoxious and annoying. There are some funny moments. The animation is great as always, but there's some story turns that are pretty cool. But I'm just like, yeah, like for it being everyone's favorite Disney movie and like the highest grossing Disney movie of all time, I'm just like, oh my god. And then the second one, holy shit, take a shot anytime someone starts to sing in this movie. You'll be fucking dead by halfway through the movie. I remember seeing this with my wife, and like halfway in between, her dad came and started watching it with us, and he was like, holy shit, there's so much singing in this movie. I'm like, thank you. There's so much singing. Can we just get a fucking story? Oh my god. I will never, probably never, ever, 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 ever rewatch Frozen 2. There was one funny scene in this movie, and that was when Olaf was telling the story about the first movie. That was funny. Other than that, everything I had a problem with in the first one, they pretty much amplify in the second one. So, in at number 2 is a movie I've ranted about for quite a while now. Bohemian Rhapsody. Fucking Best Picture nominee, my ass. This movie shouldn't have even sniffed an Oscar nomination. God damn. Rami Malek was pretty good, but I don't think he's an Oscar. It's not an Oscar-winning performance. For one, he doesn't even sing. Like, what the fuck? Bradley Cooper in A Star Wars Born was nominated the same year as this, and he actually sang in that movie. So fucking give him the nomination. Same with Taron Egerton in Rocket Man. Those are two better performances because they fucking sing in the movie. He's just lip syncing. So that I've always had a problem with that. And pretty much everyone that I've heard say that this is a good movie, all they do is praise the Queen music. The music from Queen doesn't make the movie good. The movie is directed like shit. Bryan Singer was pretty much like, did he even direct it? I think he was like fired like halfway through this or something. So that doesn't really feel like there's like anyone's one style on this movie. The final concert, like that's fine, but all the CGI, like of the crowd and everything, looks like dog shit personally to me. And I just feel like we don't really get to know the character of Freddie Mercury that well. Like they dive in a little bit, but this is like one of the most fascinating people in music history. Like we should be diving deep into this guy, and the movie barely does. It's like afraid to fucking do anything with the character, like controversial or anything, even though like Freddie Mercury lived a fascinating life. Like let's dive into that shit. And I feel like the movie doesn't. And one thing that I've always hated about this movie is the Mike Myers scene where he's talking about Bohemian Rhapsody and people bobbing their heads in a vehicle. Fuck you. Keep your Wayne's World references out of my movie, please. I love Wayne's World, but do not bring it into this movie, please, okay? Bohemian Rhapsody, one of the most overrated movies. It's one that I do not want to rewatch ever again. But coming in at number 1 is Once Upon a Time in America. I was so excited to watch this movie. And you got Sergio Leone as the director. He's directed some of the best westerns out there with the Man with No Name trilogy, Once Upon a Time in the West. And he's doing a gangster movie with Robert De Niro. Like, fuck yes. Like a big scoped gangster epic. Like, fuck yeah. I was so excited. And for the first while of this movie, I was engaged. And then at a certain point, I'm just like, where's this movie going? I did watch the extended director's cut, which is 251 minutes long. So I did watch all 4+ hours of this movie. And at a certain point, I hated every single character in this movie. I was done with them. I did not care if anyone lived or died or what happened. There were like 2 main characters in this movie that are in the main group. I didn't even know their names. I sat there with subtitles on, and I'm like, who the fuck are these guys? Like, no one's saying their names. I don't know who they are. What's their purpose? I will say the performances are all excellent. The direction and everything is like masterful, like scope wise. And I really wanted to like this movie so much more than I love gangster movies. And I love Robert De Niro as an actor, and I just wanted this to be so much better than it was. This is definitely a movie I probably will never rewatch. For one, it's 4+ hours long. And two, it's just like some parts are just so incoherent that I'm just like, you guys are losing me right now as a viewer. Like, ah. I really, really wanted to like this movie so much more, guys. I seriously did. I wanted to love this movie, but it just did not work for me. And at a certain point, when your characters are so unlikable, I just can't be with them anymore. So I'm taking nothing away from Sergio Leone as a director or Robert De Niro as an actor, but that is just one movie that I know everyone thinks is a classic. Just does not work for me. Well guys, that is it for this video. My top 10 movies that I dislike more than most people. If you haven't yet, please check out the previous video of this, which is my top 10 movies that I like more than most people. Please comment in that one. And also please like, share, and comment in this video as well. As always, let's get some conversations going below. I always look at my comments, reply when I can. And yeah, feels good to be back in front of the camera. And as always guys, I'll see you next time.